So I know a lot of people will hear folks like me come out and make the comparisons or do comparison videos like this when it comes to two shows or two things that were released on the 23rd, 2 days before my birthday yesterday. And both of them being something that fans were looking forward to. One being the G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eye movie, and the other being Masters Universe Revelation. And let's just say both have gotten their mixed reactions. Some like what they saw in both of them, and some didn't, and some are in the middle. They find them kind of decent, but with their own problems that could be improved on. But when you compare the two, if you will, the reason people might like Origins more so over Revelation is the fact that the Origins movie, G.I. Joe Origins Snake Eyes movie, is exactly that. It's an origin. It's telling us how Snake Eyes came to be. True, it might be a little different than what normally a lot of fans would be used to seeing, but that's kind of goes into what I said in the video when I talked about Teela's character destruction in Revelation. How her character was assassinated, if you will. And that is, if you want to tweak a character's personality here and there, then that's fine. But don't go overboard with it. Here, as much as it may have not made sense to a lot of people, Snake Eye's origin, of wanting vengeance for the death of his father, and and willing to do whatever it takes to make that happen, plays into not only his character, as a whole, but it lets us see what he was willing to go through to achieve that goal, only to find out that that goal was was meaningless. That if he followed through on it, he'd be worse. He'd be just as cruel, if not worse, than the guy that took out his father. But the origin with Snake Eyes, like I said, made a little bit more sense because it's something you can actually tweak. It's something that you can actually, add on to make it a little bit more intriguing, more compelling, if you will, whether or not it makes sense in the eyes of some or it doesn't. But the big difference, though, between the two is, like I said, it's an origin story. It's not a sequel, or it's not, presented as a sequel or a spiritual sequel or a direct sequel. It's an origin. It's a beginning. It's a prelude. It's a prologue. Here, when you compare it to Masters Universe Revelation for the past 2 years, in the past several months, has been touted as a sequel, a direct sequel, spiritual sequel, spiritual successor, whatever you want to call it. Basically, it's always been touted as a continuation of the Filmation series. And a lot of us were looking forward to it. A lot of us was like, yes, finally, we're going to get, the conclusion of the Filmation series, and we got Powerhouse Animation behind it. That's great. However, when, the early screens came out, for people to see, and then they gave the reviews on it, and then the series debuted fully on the 23rd, the same day that Snake Eyes was released in theaters, the opinions drastically changed, and they changed a lot more so than before that. They changed a lot more so even before that, and it just got worse. Because when the synopsis said that, hey, it's going to be Teela that has to help save, the magic and the world and everything, at first people were like, okay, fine, Teela is going to be given responsibility. That's not a problem as long as we see He-Man in there, right? Nope. Because basically, this turned out to be nothing more than what places like IGN and others like Grace Rudolph and Clownfish TV and, Variety and all of them have said. That this is the Teela show. This is her show. Or at least the first half of it is. And the way she's portrayed after learning the secret, a lot of people are like, that's not Teela. It's like I said in my previous video. It's like, Kevin Smith took Teela and put somebody else into her body. Either it's an OC or his interpretation of what he was going to do with Red Sonja. They placed that person into Teela's body. And, that's what really turned off a lot of people. especially now that you're going the route of, oh, we're gonna make her a lesbian, we're gonna have her have a love interest and Andrea and stuff. It just really turned off a lot of folks to the show. Now, a lot of people do like it, there's no doubt about it. Even people that watched the original show, which this is supposed to be a direct continuation of, yes, even they liked it as well. That's not a big deal, that's not a problem. But you see, even those that may like the show, because it's, you know, been promoted as that direct continuation, even they have pointed out the fact that there are problems. And one of the main problems is Teela. So when you compare the two, you know, the big difference between them is an origin story is not a sequel. It's not screwing up a lot of things. It's basically adding on, if not tweaking, in a more not so good way, but a more acceptable way of what a character that you know and love, you know, was about and is going to be. You know, one of the common complaints when it came to Origins is that Snake Eyes spoke. But like I said in the review, you know, we haven't gotten to that point yet where he loses his, you know, voice. He loses his vocal cords, and he has to be that silent G.I. Joe, you know, member, if you will, or that silent assassin or infiltrator, you know, that he's known to be. You know, we haven't gotten to that point because this is an origin story. So you could do a little tweaking, a little adding on, improvements, if you will, to make the story more compelling, make the background of this character more interesting. But when it comes to Revelation, you know, and you're touting that as a sequel, and people expect characters to be similar, you know, as they were previously in Filmation's series, which this is supposed to be continuing, you know, like I said in the video about the character destruction, you know, you could tweak the character's personality here and there, and that wouldn't be a problem, but don't go crazy with it, and that's what they did here. You know, that's what they did here. No matter how much Kevin Smith, or even the other person that gets dragged into this, Tony DeSanto, the Netflix guy that is supposed to be the fan representation of the fans when it came to this, you know, say. You know, it's, you know, no matter what they try to say or deny, you know, you see it. You see it. And this is why if you were to compare the two, people would actually probably prefer Origins, Snake Eyes movie, over Revelation. Because you know, even if you change something here and there, or you tweak it, or you add on to it, whatever, it's not going to affect what happens later on, because it helps, because basically what happens later on, you know, could be what you expect, you know, G.I. Joe to be. It could be what we saw in the 80s, and that's it. You know, this is just an origin story. Revelation is supposed to be a continuation. And when you say it's going to be a continuation, fans expect it to be the same. Not necessarily the same, but expect it to be true to the original in many, many ways. I mean, you could tweak things here and there once in a while with characters and settings and all that, and that's fine. But when you sell it as a direct continuation, a sequel to the original that it's based on, or it's supposed to be continuing from, and you don't deliver, that basically puts you in a very unfavorable light, and, you know, credential-wise hurts you in a big, big way. You know, either you want to come out and acknowledge it or you don't. But again, if you were to basically tell somebody to choose between the two, like, which ones would they rather watch? Would they rather watch Snake Eyes, or Revelation I should say, or would they rather watch Snake Eyes? And you know what? Between the two, you know, they'd probably go with Snake Eyes, because that's an origin story, not a sequel. So in the end, both may have not been, you know, favorable in the eyes of fans, but if they were to choose between the two, they'd probably go with Origins over Revelation. That's just my opinion. But what do you guys think? Let me know what your thoughts are in the comment section below, as well as in the live chat during the premiere. But give me your thoughts, and I'm out.